His loyalty was his downfall. Isn't that a fucking shame?
You've gotta know that nothing lasts forever.
What's going on, guys? It's Steve. This video is going to be a sadder type video. Now, I spoke about this here and there, but I never made a full video on it. I just spoke about it for like 10 seconds in a few videos, but I never made a full video on it, and some people were asking me to. So, this is the sad truth about the New York Knicks. Now, if you know anything about me, I am the biggest Knicks fan on the planet. However, I no longer work for the Knicks. I quit. I don't represent them anymore as of this season. Maybe if Phil Jackson apologizes to not only myself, but to my fans, because I embarrassed the hell out of not only myself, but the people that support me this year. Because I sat there and said the New York Knicks would be the second seed in the Eastern Conference, and I would not be surprised if they forced 7 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers. A lot of people agreed. Some people said, Steve, they're going to be good, not that good. And hell, some people even said they weren't going to make the playoffs. And the people that said they weren't going to make the playoffs were very few, but they were very correct, okay? Here's the thing. The New York Knicks are at the stage where we lost, yet again, another opportunity to build the right team around a once-in-a-generation player. Now, we had Patrick Ewing in the late 80s and the 90s, a once-in-a-generation player. We built a solid team around him. Not good enough. Yeah, he choked when he missed that layup against the Pacers to send us to the NBA Finals. But we never quite built the right team to help him really secure that championship. Because he's made the finals before with the Knicks. He just never won. I think he made it twice with the Knicks. He lost to the Rockets, and then I think he lost to the Rockets. And then I know for a fact he lost to the Spurs. Okay? Fast forward almost 12, 13 years. Actually, 12 years. Because 99, they went, okay, 12 years. Fast forward 12 years, and what do we have? We have a once-in-a-generation player, a top 10 small forward of all time, one of the best players of all time, one of the best players of the last generation, one of the best scorers of all time. You get my point. Carmelo Anthony, 25, 7, and 3 for his career. So we get Carmelo Anthony. And what happens? Him and Amari Stoudemire were supposed to, and this was before Phil Jackson, him and Amari Stoudemire were supposed to be the next big thing. They were supposed to be competing with the Lakers, and they were also supposed to, who had Steve Nash, Dwight Powell, and Kobe, and who were also supposed to be competing with the Miami Heat, who had D-Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh. Now, King James, by the way. Now, unfortunately, the Knicks curse proved prevalent, and guess what happened? Amari Stoudemire could not stay healthy, which is something we see with athletic big men, which is why I fear Kristaps Porzingis. But that's besides the point of this video. So fast forward to the hiring of Phil Jackson. Actually, before that, 2012-2013, the Knicks, 50-plus wins, second seed in the Eastern Conference, the 4th best record in the NBA. Carmelo Anthony finishes behind LeBron James and Kevin Durant for the 3rd spot in the MVP voting. His 7th time on the MVP voting candidate list. And what happens? Phil Jackson comes. Actually, James Dolan hires Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson fires Mike Woodson. And we go 4 years without making the NBA playoffs. This is going to be the 4th season without the playoffs. Okay. So, Amari Stoudemire wasted a contract that we were too afraid to buy out or waive. We could have done something with him that could have enabled us to get someone else. But what do the Knicks do? They sit and they allow Amari Stoudemire to collect a whole bunch of bank, $25 million a year, to sit on the fucking bench. Okay? So, that's 2 years right there with Amari sitting on the bench. $50 million. Okay? Get rid of that. Amari's gone. He's out of here. He's with the Miami Heat, right? So now, we trade J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert. Excuse me, not we. Phil Jackson trades J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert. He trades Tyson Chandler. He trades all of these players for, let's see, who did we get? Pablo Prigioni. Let me see. Aaron Aflalo, who's a solid role player, but let's be real for a second. And, let me see, who else did we have? You know, we have so many bad players, I can't even remember. So we go 3 years with terrible players, not making the NBA playoffs. Okay, now, the reason why we didn't make it in 2013, 2014 is because Melo got injured for half the season. We would have made it if he weren't injured for half of the season because he was averaging 27 that year, and the Knicks were pretty good when he was playing. And then after that, obviously, Phil Jackson traded everyone and got no one in return. So we tanked and we started to rebuild. And what happens after that? Let's see. We get Kristaps Porzingis. Great acquisition. But let's see. The Knicks, who are 1-13 without Carmelo Anthony, excluding, actually, I think they're like 1-18 now because he sat out a lot of games in the past 2 weeks. I think they're like 1-18 without Carmelo Anthony in the last 2 years. Phil Jackson and his associates start to blame Carmelo Anthony, and they publicly come out and say, Melo's going to be gone, we're going to trade Melo, and disrespecting him. He not once disrespected any of them. He not once spoke out against them. He always said, I trust the process. I want to be with the Knicks. His loyalty was his downfall. Isn't that a fucking shame? We should have been title contenders. But no. Phil Jackson decides to tank, and then when the team that he decides to tank with doesn't make the NBA fucking playoffs, he blames it on Carmelo Anthony. He's running Melo out of town. Now Melo's going to win a championship with either Cleveland or the Clippers, most likely Cleveland. Okay? Which means we have another 5 to 10 fucking years without making the playoffs. Because Melo's not going to be on this team, and we are going to be struggling. Do you think any superstar player is going to want to come to the New York Knicks after how Phil Jackson and his shitty fucking management handled Carmelo Anthony? Do you think any superstar player is going to want to come and play for the New York Knicks? Hell no! No one's going to want to come to the New York Knicks now after what Phil Jackson did to Carmelo Anthony. We don't even stand a chance. The only chance we stand is if we draft Lonzo Ball or someone else because our team is going to be complete shit for 10 plus years. I love Porzingis, but he's not going to be a superstar. So we're fucked. We are royally fucked. We have nothing to look forward to in the future. Nothing. This team is an absolute embarrassment. It is a travesty, an abomination that this occurred. Thanks all to the old fart in Phil Jackson. Now, we have 5 to 10 years, probably even more, because we got lucky with Melo, because he's from New York. If you think about it, if Melo weren't from New York, he would not have come to the New York Knicks. He said he only came to New York because he was a Knicks fan growing up because he's from New York. I know he grew up in Baltimore, but he was born on Red Hook, okay? Now I got a fucking headache because Phil Jackson wants to be a dummy. You know, it's truly sad that yet again we waste a once-in-a-generation player because of stupid management decisions. If you think about it, forget Patrick Ewing. Let's talk about Allen Houston. The dumbest contract I've ever seen in my life to a guy that barely averaged 16 points per game. Then we had no money to sign anyone. No one wanted to come here anyway. Keep that in mind, besides Stephon Marbury. But no one wanted to come here anyway. And now that guy is like the Michael Jordan of China. Okay, of Beijing. It's crazy. Props to him, though. Smart guy. Now we got lucky with Melo because if Melo weren't from New York, if he weren't a Knicks fan, he wouldn't have wanted to come to the Knicks. Which is why Kevin Durant didn't even look at the Knicks. He ignored them. This is why Stephen Curry ignored them. This is why Russell Westbrook ignored them. This is why LeBron ignored them. This is why Dwight Howard ignored the Knicks. I mean, you name it. Well, denied them because he was in talks, but Dwight Howard denied the Knicks. You name it, and no one wants to come here. The only reason why we got Melo, again, is because he's from New York. So add the embarrassment of the Knicks with terrible management and how they're publicly blaming and shaming Carmelo Anthony. What do you think is going to happen over the next decade? I'm telling you guys this right now. This is going to be worse than the Sacramento Kings. This is going to be worse than the Charlotte Bobcats, than the Washington Wizards before the last 2 years. It's going to be worse than that. Okay? Because the only way this team is going to ever stand a chance to get out of this fucking 100 million foot deep hole that Phil Jackson got us in is by drafting someone that's going to be an NBA superstar. And the only way that's going to happen is by continuous tanking and tanking and tanking and tanking. It's going to be worse than the 76ers as well. There's going to be no hashtag trust the process. There's going to be no optimism. What's about to happen to the New York Knicks is historic. Obviously, unless I get signed to them. Okay? But on a damn near serious note, we're fucked. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I gave any of you guys a headache, I apologize. I have a headache now. Thank you for watching. I'm out. I'm going to go cry now. Peace.